In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down and describing the carry role in Predecessor. This is to help you better understand the role and ultimately decide if this is the role for you. Hey guys, I'm Stinky Queso. After already putting in hundreds of hours in Predecessor and countless more into other MOBAs, I understand how confusing these games can be. And with almost no information online explaining how to play Predecessor or any of its roles, I'm here to help you not only become more knowledgeable of the game, but also help you figure out which of the 5 in-game roles best suits you. When you spawn into the game, as carry, you will always be heading towards the duo lane. Whether you spawn on the light or the dark side of the map, this lane will always remain in the same location. Duo lane is situated in an outer lane next to the Fangtooth objective with a gold buff just outside of the lane. There's going to be one main buff for duo lane to be focusing on throughout the game. Gold buff, located in a cutout next to duo lane, will be one of the main focuses for the carry. This buff, as the name implies, gives the person who kills it gold and experience. It is important to try and kill this buff anytime it respawns, unless there's no time to get to it or you face the risk of death if you try to obtain it. While it won't be the end of the world if the enemy is constantly securing the gold buff, it will set them further and further ahead the more the game progresses. Additionally, there are 3 main objectives that you as carry should be trying to accomplish through all of your games. First, you should always prioritize farming and trying to complete your builds as fast as possible. This will ensure later on that you're able to not only defend yourself, but also your team, and will allow you to accumulate even more gold going later into your matches. Second, you should always be consistently trying to apply pressure to the enemy duo lane's tower by pushing up minion waves and dealing damage to the towers. While this is sort of self-explanatory, lanes and towers can actually be used as weapons or distractions for your team, allowing your team to roam further and further throughout the map without being jumped by the enemies. Pushing up your duo lane while your other lanes are being attacked by your enemies could force them to retreat and defend the lane. This is an amazing strategy to counter teams that are deathballing and grouping up, but be careful because you are extremely prone to being flanked. So make sure if you do push your lane to give yourself either an escape route or enough time to recall. Lastly, the third main objective will be located right outside of the duo lane in the jungle, the Fangtooth camp. This camp is imperative to a team's chance of winning and has the possibility of completely changing the odds. Every time the Fangtooth camp is killed by a team, that team will receive a permanent buff for the rest of the game. Here's a small list of stacking buffs you could receive from Fangtooth. For the first stack, your team will be given 50% longer jungle and river buffs. The second will provide increased movement speed outside of combat. The third stack is a 6% overall increase to all damage and armor stats. The fourth stack is a 12% increase to all damage and armor stats. And every stack after this will continue to add 6% to the overall damage and armor stat increases. Carries are typically going to be ranged and will be the highest damage dealing characters of the team. They're going to be able to take out the enemy with little effort, but are also some of the squishiest characters in the game. Because of this, you must play as carefully as possible, using not only the survival items in your character's kit, but utilizing the support character in your lane to keep yourself as safe as possible at all times. As examples, you could use Murdoch's stasis trap to root your enemies as you run away, or his buckshot ability to blast your enemies further away from you. Drongo's gag grenade will silence enemies, stopping them from using any abilities that could aid them in catching or stunning you, while his old rusty boomerang will slow enemies, furthering the distance between you and them. Lastly, Sparrow's Hail of Arrows ability casts an area of effect slow to enemies that run through it, allowing you to keep your distance. In the current meta of Predecessor, attack speed and crit chance are ruling the lanes for carries. Attack speed lets you dish out more shots, while crit chance ensures those shots pack a punch. But don't be worrying about builds just yet. Until you get a good grasp of the game, its mechanics, and an overall feel of how everything works, just stick to using the recommended builds. These builds are well-rounded and, for the most part, should let you relax while you're still trying to learn the game. If you feel like you've gotten to the point where you're tired of using these recommended builds and you would like to start trying new builds, feel free to join my Discord in the description below, where I've compiled a list of builds for you guys to use. I like to consider that early game is around the first 10 minutes of the match. This is where characters are the weakest and everyone's main focus should be farming. After arriving in the lane, your main priority should be to stay close to the tower, only venturing out to clear the minion waves in your lane or to secure the gold buff or Fangtooth camp just outside of your lane. Here, chasing after players or trying to rotate out of lane could hurt you significantly, as it can severely set you back in farm, allowing the enemy team to eventually get ahead and steamroll you. And while mid-game is the long transitioning period between early and late game, it can often be the most crucial part. At this point in the game, most players will have around 1 to 3 items, and anywhere from 2 to 4 Fangtooth camps have been killed. At this point, farming should still be one of your main priorities, but now you should also be rotating out of your lane to either help gank other lanes or stop other lanes from being ganked. At this point in the game, your build should be complete, and you should be hitting harder than Metro Boomin's No Album. Even though at this point you will have high damage and possibly high sustain if you build lifesteal, you still must take all precautions to stay alive, because now you will have a target on your back if you didn't already, and the enemy is almost certain to group up to only focus you. Make sure to stay close to your team at all times, and victory shall be in your hands. That's going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video or learned anything new and helpful, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. And before you head out, make sure to check out my channel for my other how to play videos to see if any of the other roles better suit you. Have a great day, guys. Peace.